What is going on, people? Tuesday afternoon pod. Man, you start the day. I wanted to talk to you about the Ole Miss game and preview Florida State. That the line's 14.5, seems weird. The line I feel like should be a lot more. But Graham, I think we got to start the show talking about recruiting. You got four recruits. You got the running back from this morning. He was committed to Florida State. What was his name? Byron Lewis, I believe his name was. Yeah, Byron
Correct.
Lewis, Louis.
Running back out of
Um,
American Heritage.
yes. I mean, this is what happens when you win, and the team that's your rival that you're about to play isn't playing their best ball. Nowhere near it. Billy's heating up. I forget where Florida ranks right now in 247 Sports. I'll look at that. I know they've been up to like the top 20. I think it is. Do you know?
Florida's number 17 right now in
17.
247 composite rankings. Yeah, they're
Um,
179 and Ole Miss is 16, and if they get a couple more, they'll leapfrog Ole Miss as well.
yeah. So I mean, the main thing is the recruiting right now. What Florida's been able to do, and it's a testament when you've played your two best games of the season, the last 2 weeks, right before what signing day is going to be in the next week or so. Both games being at home, both games had a lot of recruits, and a lot of these guys are still saying that a lot of recruits are still going to be filing in and committing here soon.
Yeah, I totally agree. Rob, our man Rob in the chat, who always shows out. Rob, we appreciate you, my boy. Says Graham looks like we're all eating crow pie for Thanksgiving on keeping Billy. Yes, sir, you are correct, and I have never been happier to eat crow in my life because the momentum looks real, the momentum looks tangible, the momentum looks like it could last long term. So, look, man, I've seen some online a bit talking about the recruiting class. I've seen some people super ultra positive about it. Some people a little bit still hesitant about it, saying, "Hey, some of these guys are 3 stars. That a lot of the 5 stars aren't necessarily coming yet." Well, look, two things. A lot of times, those 5 stars that have been committed to a certain place for a long time are probably going to naturally be harder to move. That's pretty normal. And then also, man, like we got to remember, you know, Florida is still playing a lot of catch up from how poorly they started the season, right? Like this momentum they're generating right now and getting guys is awesome, but we can't forget that like you had like a month plus to start the year where the program looked completely dead, and now they're having to catch up. So this recruiting cycle will finish up however it does, hopefully as good as humanly possible, right? Hopefully, um, Florida can nail one of these fives, at least one of these 5 stars that could really help shape the class. A Solomon Thomas, a Dallas Wilson, a Jamie French, perhaps. Like some of these guys that Florida's had a little bit of smoke for. Hopefully, they can flip one of them, and then you can really put a stamp home on this recruiting class. But we've all been saying for a while now, Dylan, and this is still true that this year more than ever, it's going to be important for Florida to raid the transfer portal for next year to make up for the how far they fell behind at the beginning of the season when the recruiting class was really starting to take shape. So you look at that. If you get some foundational pieces, some 4 and 5 star foundational guys in this class, and hopefully some 3 stars you develop. Remember, Jaden Ball is a 3 star. Aaron Gates is a 3 star. Like you can, if this class or this coaching staff, excuse me, has shown their ability to identify some 3 stars and develop them into really good players. So you get some of that out of this class, and then you really make strides in the portal. I think you can be super excited about the roster you're going to have next season.
Yeah, yesterday they didn't get any big time guys yesterday. You got a receiver, an offensive line, and a linebacker. And I'm not really going to deep dive into what these guys are, what their role is going to be, or what it's going to be for the position group, because the truth of the matter is I'm not going to make a big opinion on what this recruiting class is like until they all sign on signing day one, and also, like Florida's got the linebacker, or sorry, they got the running back this morning. It's a pretty crowded running back room already. I know Montrell Johnson's going to graduate, but it would not surprise me if another school is going to pony up and give money to Jacoby Jackson or give money to Trayon Webb or maybe even Ball. Um, you know, yes, Florida's going to get guys on transfer portal, and that's good. But also just know that other teams are going to do the same thing to you because for whatever the reason may be, maybe they don't like how much they could get better playing time somewhere else. They can get more money. They might want to move closer to home. Who knows what the case may be? So, I'm still like we had one comment right here, Case Swiss about Solomon Thomas. Yeah, if Florida's able to flip Jamie French or Solomon Thomas, that's where it's the recruiting class that's turning pretty good right now turns into, okay, we got something really, really rolling.
I agree, Dylan, and I kind of alluded to it a minute ago, and kind of talking with different people that are Gator fans and are really following recruiting like that, and just talking back and forth, like where I've kind of arrived for my own opinion on this class and how it'll finish up. And tell me if you agree or disagree with this. I will be if they kind of finish where they currently are and maybe get a couple other 3 stars, low level 4-star guys and sort of just remain status quo, finish the class like 15, something like that. I'll be fine. I'll be satisfied. I won't be furious. And I'll really be saying you got to hit the portal hard. And to your point, you got to make sure you retain the current roster you got, which far better chance of that now that you're winning ball games and showing a bright future. I think the way, though, that Billy Napier can put the stamp on the class, can shut the door on the class and say, this is something that Gator fans can be really, really excited about, is one of these high-level 5-star guys, one of these must-have, game-changing type of guys. Give me one. Give me one. I'm not going to say that between French and Thomas and Dallas Wilson, you got to get all of them. I'm not going to say that. But get one. And then it's like, yeah, okay. Now it's time to really, really, really be excited about what Billy Napier is cooking moving forward.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. You got, and I wonder too. Like this will be the last thing I'll say before we move on to the games that actually we played from last Saturday and like the Florida State game. Like I wonder how much they're investing into high school recruiting. I wonder how much they're investing into the portal. Every team is different. We've seen Ole Miss last year when they went heavy in lines of scrimmage, they went portal. Florida State went heavy in the portal. Miami has went heavy in the portal. Florida has dabbled in the portal, but they haven't really went all in like some teams. So I wonder.
Like Georgia's been heavy high school,
yeah,
for example. Yeah.
So it's not and it's still brand new. Like we're only a couple of years into this thing. Also, too, fans don't really care about this. You're now going to have 105 scholarships instead of your regular 85. So how does that, manage a roster and things of that nature? Just a lot of moving parts, and I wonder what Florida's going to do within this next month because we're going to know who they have before the new year.
Yeah, and I think you brought up the interesting point a minute ago, Dylan, that I think is not being talked about. Everybody kind of knows it, but it's not being talked about enough. Retaining the current roster is going to be so key in this. And I think everybody's thoughts right now are kind of generally, okay, Florida's winning. They got a really bright future. They have DJ Lagway. Of course, all these guys are going to stay. But as well as I do, Dylan, that's not always necessarily true. Like you just pointed out, there's a lot of other factors that can go along with it. There's more politics involved in college football today than there ever has been. And that doesn't mean that these guys are going to leave. I'm not sitting here predicting a lot of Florida's game changers to leave the program. I'm just saying that it's something that if you're interested in this and if you're interested in what kind of roster Florida's going to put on the field next year, that's something to monitor just as much as monitor who they go get in the portal, who they get in high school. The running back room, to your point, like Jacoby Jackson, like what if another school comes along and offers Jacoby Jackson the ability to be RB1 there? Whereas here he would be the 1-2 punch with Baugh. I believe that Jacoby Jackson is going to be on the Gators next year. I'm just saying those conversations will probably happen with some guys on this roster, and they'll be tampered with a bit. That's just how college football works today. So making sure that your main foundational game-changing pieces, especially those young guys that you believe you can move forward with for the next year, 2 years, 3 years, are Florida Gators moving forward.
Graham, going back to the game on Saturday, I don't know if you've rewatched the game. I've only got to see a little bit. I didn't really get to watch the whole game. And when you're at the game, you miss a lot. Man, first off, shout out the seniors. It was the Joey Slackman DJ Douglas game. I mean, I think me and you both concur. Joey Slackman finally gets a big play, forces a pressure. DJ Douglas gets a fumble recovery. DJ Lagway, yeah, whatever, all that stuff. This was their
Joey
game.
Slackman show, man.
Yeah, you don't agree?
Oh my God, we were told lies about Joey Slackman. I will tell you that much.
Man, the funniest thing, I'm sure most people saw the tweet where it said it was Jameis Winston before the Thursday night game, and he's like grinning ear to ear, and it's like Joey Slackman probably gets his moment or something. All seriousness, this is a Gator pod, and we talk about only the Gators from their standpoint. Florida did well, and you can't say two things at one time, but there was a lot of what Ole Miss did not do well. Ole Miss had more total yards. Ole Miss went over 3 in the red zone. Ole Miss dropped a touchdown. It's not saying that Florida would not have went on to win the game. I'm still surprised at how Florida is able to handle them at the lines of scrimmage. You can just go on and on about. I saw Gator Dave put out yesterday. Ole Miss led the nation in sacks, tackles for loss, led the SEC in run defense, rushing touchdowns allowed. And Florida almost was able to do, for the most part, whatever they wanted to on offense in the run game, except for like the third quarter. They kind of went stale for a little bit. I don't know what changed in that team. And it's not just, oh, we changed this one guy, we changed this here, we changed our philosophy. Like, no, something fundamentally changed within everybody within that team, from how you couldn't have been able to do anything against Miami on offense to now. I mean, Graham, it's gotten to the point where it's like, and this isn't going to happen, obviously. If Florida played Indiana in a playoff, I'd be like, yeah, I like Florida's chances. If Florida played Penn State, I'd be like, yeah, it's a 50-50 game. And it's because of what they've been able to do up front.
Todd McShay was on Ryan Russillo's podcast on Monday, and he put Florida in like top 5 of teams you don't want to play right now. And that might be a little bit aggressive, but I mean it's up there. I mean, if you're a team right now, I mean, Florida, the swamp has been where playoff hopes go to die the last 2 weeks, man. People don't want to play this team, dude. They're playing with their hair on fire. To your point about like something changing, and particularly talking about that offensive line, they're just playing so like cohesive. They're playing as such a unit. You know what I mean? Like it hasn't felt like in a long time there's one guy that's costing them. There's one guy that keeps getting penalties. There's one guy that keeps false starting or whatever. It just feels like they're a disciplined group that does their job. Everybody knows their role. And it's just it's a clean operation right now, which clean operation has not always been what we've said to describe a Billy Napier program. But they're getting there for some way, somehow they're getting there. And I think Billy Napier has alluded to multiple times, and I think it's probably worth us mentioning because we haven't talked about it a whole lot on our show. It's worth mentioning that Billy has mentioned multiple times in his press conferences about the practice after the bye week.
The first bye week.
The first bye week. Yes. Excuse me. The first bye week. And they scrimmaged really hard. They kept score, and it was ultra competitive. And he said the dudes were fighting their ass off. And for whatever reason, that gave them the competitive edge and the juice that they needed to start really competing on Saturdays, because we've always felt like Billy Napier is a good talent evaluator. The guys he's brought in the portal have typically been hits. The guys that he's brought in high school have typically been hits. Roster construction's never been an issue. You know the talent's there. But not having a clean operation on game day and not always playing with – it's not like they've quit. Like, the guys have always played hard. I know that's been kind of a joke, but, like, playing like a man possessed, especially in the lines of scrimmage, hadn't been there before, and it's there now. But it's crazy. Like, they're playing with their hair on fire. They're also playing really disciplined. I had a tweet, Dylan, that people started grabbing a hold of on Sunday. It was showing Jordan Castell's hit late in the game to dislodge the ball from the tight end. And I tweeted, and it was just something I noticed. And I think you and I talked about this during the game. Like, Florida's DBs had an opportunity twice in that game for an absolute kill shot. Jackson Dart threw a hospital ball twice, and Florida safeties had an opportunity to literally take the receiver's head off to dislodge the ball and probably get a targeting penalty, probably get ejected, 15 yards, yada, yada. And both times, all they did was just deliver clean, solid hits to dislodge the football, cause an incomplete pass, lay a boom, and keep it pushing. And that's discipline. That's coaching. You can't tell me that's not good coaching. So for whatever Saturday coaching Billy has fallen short of in the past, you're starting to see he and his staff have some of the things that they've constantly been preaching come to fruition. It's really encouraging to see.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this team right now. We all believe that Lagway, had he been healthy for the Georgia game, that they would have beaten Georgia. And then, of course, a couple of dumb things that, were done by the coaching staff that most fans believe, and they would have beaten Tennessee. And this team could very easily, after a win on Saturday, could have easily been 9-3. And it's not that far out of the possibility. After this team started 1-2, there wasn't not a soul that you could have told that to that watched those games and said, yeah, Florida could be 9-3, and they are where they are right now. And it's the lines of scrimmage. It's the defense that's not getting enough credit, in my opinion. I mean, they were out. Gates was out the second play of the game. You were out Pup Howard. You're still out all your DBs, Jason Marshall.
Devin Moore.
Included in there. And it's like they haven't missed a beat at all.
Asa Turner was a guy that was supposed to be huge for them this year. They got from Washington. He got hurt in the Miami game, hadn't played all year since. DJ Douglas turned out to be awful. So that's basically an injury because he doesn't play at all. It's been Bryce Thornton and Sharif Denson that have played in there. But, man, these young guys, that's what I'm saying. Like, this staff, for all their shortcomings that we've all talked about, people in the comments, you and I, everybody included, this staff can clearly evaluate talent because these young guys go in seemingly at every position and they produce and they're good. Dijon Johnson was not supposed to be a guy that was going to get, CB1 type of reps this year, and that's what he's getting now, and he's good. Dijon Johnson's really good. Triquez Bridges, I mean, how good of an addition has he been? And moving from safety to corner, and he hasn't missed a beat. There's not one time you and I watched most of the games ago. There's not one time you and I said, man, Triquez Bridges is getting picked on. Mm-hmm. Corner's not even his natural position. So for them to be able to do this it's impressive, and it speaks to when Napier, again, talks about his evaluation and how the process they have to pick guys, it's working. It's probably the best thing. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that I can't speak. Sorry. Is that probably the best thing that Billy Napier and his staff is at?
What, just evaluate not having somebody being picked on, having a liability out there?
Evaluating talent and getting it into the building. Whether that be on both sides, whether that be the DJ Lagways of the world, who are game changers, Gatorade Player of the Year, everybody wants them, go out and get them in recruiting, go out and beat USC for them, go out and beat Texas A&M for him. Texas A&M is like an hour from his hometown. Go out and get a guy like DJ Lagway that's clearly a game changer, and then go get your 3 stars that can play. Go get Jaden Ball. Go get Aaron Gates. And then in the portal, go get Elijah Badger. Go get Triquez Bridges. Like, all these guys I'm naming are dudes that, again, were either highly touted or not, that are producing for the Gators, that this staff went out and found and said, these guys can help us win.
Yeah, I mean,
Joyce Lightman was a miss. Joyce Lightman was a miss. DJ Douglas was a miss. But those are fewer and further between than the dudes that produce for them.
I mean, a lot of it's coach speak, but I mean, the beginning of the year, Napier was preaching patience, and And that's all fine and well, but when you're in year 3 and you started the way you did, there's no time for patience. So maybe he knew that these guys could perform. Now, I mean, I'm sure most of them he didn't expect for them to perform because of the injuries that happened in front of them. But yeah, hats off to them. I mean, a lot of it is talent that they probably didn't discover that they knew they had. That might not have thought that they were ready from the jump. But I mean, a lot of that's coaching, man. Have those guys in the right spots, and not only having the right spot but making plays, man. It's definitely something that nobody really saw. Florida line opened at like 14.5 against Florida State. Is that low? I feel like that's really low. Like, I feel like it should open at 21. Like, Ohio State is a 21-point favorite over Michigan. Like, I feel like that's what it should be.
Yeah, it's just Ohio State can just score so quickly. And Florida can too. Obviously, the lag was really explosive, but I mean, those receivers at Ohio. I mean, Jeremiah Smith is not a human being.
No, he's an alien.
And I don't know. I would agree it's probably low. I probably would have lived in like the 17 range. You said 21. It's at Florida State. Granted that the stadium's under renovation and it's not going to be. I think it's like any rivalry game where one team is really outmatching the other. You'll have an intense first quarter because Florida State's going to throw the kitchen sink at the Gators and come out with a bunch of emotion and maybe have a scripted drive that can maybe move the ball a little bit. Who knows? And even though that offense has been abysmal all season, but I predicted to be like most of those games end up being where the underdog in the rival will come out fast, and Florida State will play with a lot of intensity to start the game. But all it's going to take is a couple of Lagway deep shots, Jaden Ball running over a couple of people, Caleb Banks and Tyreek Sapp getting in that backfield, getting a couple sacks, and I think they're gonna fold and quit pretty quickly. To your point, and that could make that score get pretty ugly by the end.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like the last couple of days, when I've been thinking about this game, like even before the spread came out, I just had the feeling that like something weird is going to happen to where Florida State's going to be in the game like at the start of the second half. Like, and I still think Florida's going to win by like 14, 20 points. But just something in the back of my head just feels like something weird is going to happen. But I think I'm trying to talk myself into it because, I mean, Florida State, the first time they scored over 21 points was last Saturday against Charleston Southern. And they're starting a new quarterback this Saturday too, or another quarterback.
Luke Kromenhoek?
Yeah, Kromenhoek. I think – who put the stat out? The first time that two freshmen, I saw Scott Carter, FloridaGators.com tweet out, the first time two true freshman quarterbacks are playing in this game and being the starters. First time ever in this rivalry, which is hard. But yeah, I mean, top to bottom, it's almost going to be one of those games where the fan base isn't going to be happy if Florida doesn't win by at least like 24.
Yeah, I probably agree with that. Florida's the team with something to lose in this game. And people might say, well, what is there to lose? They've already qualified for a bowl game, whatever. Well, where there is to lose is losing to a rival. There's always something to lose there, and then momentum. I mean, you want to talk about all the momentum they built. You want to talk about taking the wind out of the sails.
Well, it's the recruiting mainly.
Yeah, I agree. But Rob says I would be concerned if our running game wasn't so strong. Then, Rob, I probably agree with that. Actually, I would say I agree with that because you got a freshman quarterback on the road. That could open up the potential for a couple of sacks, maybe a pick, whatever. But I agree with you when you get Ball and Jackson and now Johnson, who ran well last week, even though I was complaining about him. You get them running well and get them lathered up a bit and get them starting to get 4 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards a carry. It's going to be a long day for Florida State. Long day.
Yeah, I remember the last time Florida went in Tallahassee, they had Felipe Franks, and they were tossing the rock everywhere. DBs were fainting in the middle of the route. What was that? Van Jefferson was he the one that
Yeah,
caught that deep
Van
ball?
Jefferson was taking souls in that game, dude.
Yeah. And then, dude, I forgot that Florida beat Florida State 3 years ago. I mean, how could I forget the 5-6 and 6-5 Florida State game? It was
The
the Dameon Pierce
2021
versus
Anthony Richardson, Dameon Pierce game.
yeah, Dameon Pierce where his helmet got ripped off and started flexing inside the 5. I kind of forgot about that. I mean, that's a lot of what this rivalry's been, man, which has kind of been sad. I mean, we didn't grow up in the era, but in the 90s, like this was the game. Like this was the game that determined national titles. It was it determined a national title in 96, obviously, and they rematched. 97, Florida State was the number 1 team in the country, went to the Swamp and lost. It's the rivalry has lost a lot of lackluster, which is just sad because, I mean, just from a recruiting standpoint, man, like I coach high school football, and I want every team within our area to be good. Like, it doesn't feel like the recruits here in this area care about Florida State, Miami, Georgia, and then you can lump in a USF who was good in 07, or UCF here and there when they were good with Bortles. Like, it doesn't have that same feeling anymore. And
I'm sure they feel that way about Georgia.
Yeah, definitely. But it's like it's always lopsided. It's like it's great. It's only Georgia and it's not nobody else. And then it felt like that with Florida with Urban Meyer. It hasn't felt like all those schools competing for the same guys in state.
Yeah.
And I kind of miss that.
Yeah. I agree. We'll never get back to that fully because recruiting is too national now. You'll never be able to just dominate your region like you have in the past. However, I do think that keeping far more guys in the state and in Gainesville for our intents and purposes, obviously, is like step one to getting the program back to something really, really competitive and always in the conversation for the college football playoff and the SEC and national championship conversation. Something that I really like that Billy Napier's done since he's been here is he's gotten Jacksonville back in the conversation a lot in terms of recruits. I mean, your starting left tackle is a Trinity grad with Austin Barber, Sharif Denson, Bartram Trail. Trent Webb got hurt early in the season, but he'll be, for all intents and purposes, he'll probably be back next year, and he should be running the ball really well. So,
Paul Howard, Clyburn, the other two.
Pup Howard, yep. Jack, yep, absolutely. Tramel Jones in this class. So, anyways, I hear what you're saying, and Florida and Florida State playing electric games that mean a lot would certainly help both programs in that regard. But until then, I will be more than happy to oblige belt to assing Florida State until they decide to get their head out of their ass and want to be competitive. But I mean, we've talked about it all year, Dylan. This is the worst FSU team we've ever seen in our lives.
Yeah, we thought the 19 squad was bad. Willie Taggart when that team came to the Swamp.
That 19 team would beat this Florida State team by 10 plus.
Easily, not even close.
And if DJU starts for this team, then beat them by 21 plus.
Yeah. So,
I mean, he is so bad, man. Man, look, I remember, and we can wrap up after this. I remember DJ. I forgot what game it was specifically. I feel like it was Boston College, maybe that second game of the year that they lost and really expected to win. I don't watch Florida State and never feel bad for a single one of their players, but I remember legitimately feeling bad for DJ Uyunglele on a specific play because he had not played well all game. They were dropping passes all over the place. And I distinctly remember Boston College was showing blitz, and it was either outside linebacker or a safety dropping down, was clearly going to rush. Clearly. It was so obvious. Anybody who knows anything about football could tell that Boston College was sending the house. DJ had no idea. He had no clue. He was so mentally lost that he had no idea that he was going to have to get this ball out quick because Boston College was sending the house. He snaps the ball and shotgun and just hangs onto it, thinking that he's going to be able to first read, second read, and he gets crushed. And I'm like, this dude is unbelievable. You talk about a portal miss. Oh my goodness.
Dude, that guy won what 7-8 games with Oregon State?
I know.
Like last year. It wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago. It tells you, man, what an indictment on Alex Atkins, who's no longer part of the program, and Mike Norvell. And
Well, with Norvell, I mean, Rick Ballou said this a lot on his show, and when he goes on other shows and talks about Florida State. Mike Norvell is, I forget what the record is. He's had an awful win-loss record without Jordan Travis at quarterback. And that's going to continue to be the same storyline as they go through because without him, like, he might not be there.
yeah.
And a lot of it is, I don't know if it was because he was so talented or if it was because he was being coached by Norvell. Like, that's something that's also being talked about because, I mean, you've ran through all these quarterbacks and none of them have looked good. Granted, nobody else around him is looking good, which isn't going to help him, but that's a main story.
Well, you talk about, like, to bring it back to the Gators and where the Gators currently stand, DJ Uyunglele was such a miss for Florida State and how poorly he played for the first half of the season before he got hurt. And how poorly that offense was just run in general. That played a huge role in them plummeting all the way to what they are right now. We knew they were going to take a step back and they weren't going to go undefeated or anything this year, but to be this bad, that's clearly because they started the year poorly with DJ at the helm, and that they've slowly lost more and more and more momentum, and to the point where now they've just laid down and quit. Anytime they play a good team that gets a couple of plays on them early in a game. Think about Graham Mertz. Like last year, Florida had a mostly disappointing season last year, but they weren't what Florida State is now, not even close to that bad. If they don't have Graham Mertz to keep them above water last year and keep things from totally going sideways, who knows what this year could have ended up looking like, man. For him to just keep things at least somewhat afloat. I know we were all disappointed with how last year ended. I know obviously after Miami and A&M, things got bad, but for Mertz to at least just be semi-productive in the meantime until DJ Lagway could get up and running, that you could argue that saved Billy Napier's job.
Yeah, 100%. Graham, do you want to talk about the best day ever that we had on Saturday, or are you trying to get out? You got things to do.
No, I'm in. Let's do it.
All right, dude. We start the day. We go to Waffle House. Game was electric. Obviously, it's pretty sick. But after the game is where the fun really started, dude. You forgot we saw the fight on the way to the car. Graham and I are walking up 21st Street, trying to avoid the walking traffic on 22nd Street where we were. Apparently, a 22 and a 60-year-old were fighting, and it wasn't Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. This was some young dude. We got there like 45 seconds late. And when we got there, dude had blood running all down the side of his face. And he said he won. Now, that dude said he won. I can only imagine what the other dude looked like. Were you thinking the same thing? I don't know if we ever talked about that.
I was, but of course everybody thinks they will want to fight. So
right. Yeah, I was trying to look back. I never saw a 60-year-old. And I was trying to find him. Never did. He probably ran off and did something. Then we do our pod in the car, live in the dungeon. Go 45 minutes. The award-winning got almost like 20,000 views. Shout out to all of y'all for popping in. And we got some drunk dude walking toward us. Man, so normal persons normal people they stand straight. This dude was leaning like this all the way, walking up toward our car and around it, to the point where I almost thought he got in the car.
We're in the middle of making a point about like Caleb Banks and Tyreek Sapp, and we got a hammer dude, and we're like, are we gonna have to shut down the pod? Or this guy runs into what's going on, man?
I was gonna ask him how the game was. Why not? That'd been better content than what the hell we were talking about. No, you had that, and then the best part, we go to Sonny's. Dude, nothing's more annoying than when you go to a restaurant, and there's nothing but quality games on, and they got Clemson and the Citadel. And then Kentucky and Texas, that's a blow. I'm like, yo, can we change the game? She goes, if I give you the remote, will you do it? I'm like, yeah, perfect. Like, you give a man a remote, that's a man's dream, other than being
Two
on the
remotes. We had
couch.
2 big screens at the Sun's bar.
And we watched the craziest ending to Arizona State, BYU, and Penn State. The Penn State, Minnesota. Just all around a great day, man. Beginning to end. I thought that was the whole day was just something crazy. And it made it great because the Gators got the dub. You know, we're true Gator fans. We thought about going to the LSU game. We're like, we're probably not going to happen. It's not going to lose. We'll probably lose. Then, or at least that was my opinion. I think you said that they were going to win, right? If Lagway had played.
I picked them on Gator Bites and on our show. I picked the Gators.
And then
I think I said 31-28. So a little bit lower scoring, but I still picked them to win.
Yeah, and then they get good. We're like, all right, we'll go to this game. You know, we're true Gator fans. We're loyal to the kingdom. So I thought that was funny. Just like our little 2 cents. It was a great day.
Jalen, shout out. ASU coach went off. I thought it was silly. Dude, we were in the middle of Sundays watching that game. We're like, this is one of the craziest finishes we've ever seen. Dude, Arizona, we didn't have the sound on, but we're obviously watching what's going on, and we're like, that is crazy, man.
So I didn't know on that last play that the clock stops when the ball hits the ground. Like if you throw the ball out of bounds, the clock doesn't stop when it goes right out of the sideline. It doesn't stop until it goes completely out of bounds. He was arguing that there was no way there was any time left, and the ball game should have been over. Which he looked like a clown. I mean, good Lord, dude. Like, they're replaying it. They got all the technology. You just saw with your 2 eyes. And you're a dumbass for running backwards for 40 yards when you're inside the 5-yard line. You're up 5. Like,
it felt like Dillingham is a coach. It felt like he was basically like, well, we stormed the field, so of course the game has to be over. That's how it felt, didn't it?
Yes, very much.
It felt like, well, you know, our fans and we decided it was over, so of course it has to be over. Never mind the actual rules of the game.
Dude, I was shocked that they didn't give Arizona State a 15-yard penalty for them because
I was too.
It took like 12, 13 minutes.
Because BYU caught the ball. They caught the Hail Mary. He was just short. So imagine you get extra yards. Was I rooting for ASU to lose so we can cherry pick?
Yeah, we were all rooting for BYU.
We were all rooting for BYU because the finish would have been crazy. But to your point, Rob, the next Arizona State receiver that wants to transfer to Florida, please, by all means, please come on down. Because golly, every single one of them is fantastic. I mean, Ricky Pearsall and Elijah Badger already. If you give me one of those next year, I'm living.
Yeah. All right, we appreciate y'all popping in, and we'll get this posted on Facebook. Facebook's got all kind of issues, man. These damn boomers, or the boomers, give us the most numbers, and then we can't go live because something's wrong on Facebook's end. God bless, dude. Technology's your best worst friend. All right, show Thursday preview. Will Florida State smash the Rock post game?
No
or no. We'll talk about all things. What's going to happen with that game, and we'll go from there. So until then, we'll see y'all.